Anxiety disorders are the most common treated psychiatric disorders that we have. And the two biggest anxiety disorders, one is generalized anxiety disorder and the other one is panic disorder. And before I talk about them, let me just talk about anxiety in general. So anxiety is stress. And when we're faced with stressors, evolutionarily speaking, our body has had a response where we get certain chemicals, adrenaline and cortisol, dumped into our body. Adrenaline is an immediate acting chemical that gets our body ready for fight or flight. And then cortisol is a chemical that gets released to help our bodies respond to any injuries that we get as a result of a stress. See, before recent times, when we can imagine dangers around every corner, it used to be that we only responded to actual dangers that were happening. So stressors for animals, and back for us when we were cavemen, they were defined as a threat to our life, a threat to our limb, loss of life, a predator coming up upon us. And the body would respond by dumping adrenaline to get us ready to get away, and then cortisol to help us recover from whatever wounds we may receive. Nowadays, with our frontal cortex, we can imagine dangers before they've even happened. And the most common disorder is generalized anxiety disorder. And generalized anxiety disorder occurs in 3 to 6% of the population. And it's defined as a condition in which you are over worrying. So there's a relatively small stimulus that most of us would not really think too much about. But with someone with an anxiety disorder, they will blow that up. They'll make mountains out of molehills. So it's this over worry. And second, there's an inability to turn it off. So what my patients describe to me is, I can't stop it, right? So they know that there's no point in worrying about whether the paycheck is going to go into the bank tomorrow. It usually happens. There's not a lot of point in worrying about it, but they'll be checking and checking and checking to see if the money has been deposited. Or one of their kids is late from school, and they'll worry and fret, even though there's generally been 30-minute blocks over which there's a range at which time the kid's coming in. So they can't stop the worry. It's over the general amount that other people would have. And then there are physical symptoms that people get with their worry. And the physical symptoms tend to be things like feeling edgy, agitated, anxiety. People can get physical symptoms, muscle tensions, headaches, right? Tension headaches, tension in your shoulders. Other symptoms, you can have fatigue, you can have problems with concentration and focus. People will say that they're about to talk and they forget what they were about to say. Sleep disturbances are very common. So there's a whole set of physical symptoms that go along with this general worry. So generalized anxiety disorder occurs in about 3 to 6% of the population. Panic disorder is a little bit less than that. It's closer to 1 to 2% of the population. Panic disorder is characterized by discrete moments of time in which someone is experiencing a panic attack. And then there's a lot of worry about the panic attack. So the panic disorder is defined as having a phobia of having panic attacks. And what is a panic attack? Just about everybody has had panic attacks in their life. A panic attack is when you have adrenaline in your body, and it's incredibly uncomfortable when adrenaline is not required. And the sort of symptoms that you get when you have adrenaline in your body are fight or flight symptoms. Your heart starts going, you get sweaty, you get short of breath, your stomach feels squeezy, you feel a little out of it, your muscles can be tremulous. There's a whole cascade of physical symptoms that are going on with a panic attack. Most of the time, for most of us, we have them and we just like brush it off and it's not a big deal. For someone who's prone to panic disorder, they'll start to worry about having a panic attack and they're hypervigilant. Now, this hypervigilance, being on edge, is the same if you're having a phobia to, let's say, spiders or to mice. If you're scared of spiders, every time you look around, you're looking somewhere in the back of your mind for a spider. Or if you're scared of mice, you're looking for mice. And if you see something that looks a little bit like a mouse or like a spider, you're going to get scared, right? You're going to get adrenaline into your body. In the same way, someone who's got panic disorder is scanning their body all the time for a symptom, a physical symptom that tells them, uh-oh, I'm going to have one of these panic attacks. And people who have panic disorder, they generally will have one symptom that they key in on. So for somebody, it could be that their heart fluttered. Somebody else, they got a cold sweat. Somebody else, they felt lightheaded and dizzy, like they were going to pass out. And what's interesting is that this unique symptom that they're having, they're always going to find. And the analogy that we use is that the body is always making noise that we're generally disregarding. So there's a cascade of physical symptoms that our body just tunes out. Think of your house, your apartment, making noise all the time that you're usually tuning out. You'll hear it after you're up late at night by yourself watching a really scary movie. And then every window that's rattling, every time there's a scratch from a tree on the wall, there's a nail popping, there's something creaking, all of a sudden, all these sounds that you weren't paying attention to, you're going to hear every single one of them. And it's not that they weren't there before, it's that your body, your brain, automatically filters out information that it doesn't need, right? So people who have panic disorder, they're scanning for this information. And if they're looking for a weird physical sensation, their heart feeling funny, a sweat coming on, feeling a little lightheaded, they're going to find it. And when they find it, their first reaction, there's a physical sensation that they have, it's going to be, oh no, right? There's a catastrophic thought. Here it comes. I hate these things. I hope it's not a bad one. And your body can't recognize whether you're having a catastrophic thought because you felt a little weird for a second or because a lion just walked into the room. So it just responds very briskly with a cascade of adrenaline, which gives you more physical symptoms, which gives you more uncomfortable things to pay attention to, which causes more catastrophic thinking. So panic attacks and panic disorder will lead to this cycle where very quickly, as soon as someone has a little bit of a symptom, they'll be in a full-bore panic attack. And as a result of this, people will start to avoid doing things in places where they might have a panic attack. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it's not uncommon that people get scared about driving on a highway, let's say, or on a bridge. Situations where they would anticipate that if they have a panic attack that's uncomfortable and they were to pass out, they were to have something catastrophic happen, they don't want to get caught out there. So they start to avoid, and the world starts to shrink. And that's where a lot of the debilitating consequences of panic attacks will happen. So not only are people uncomfortable, but they're really limiting their life and the choices that they're able to make to avoid being in situations where they might experience a panic attack. And we call that agoraphobia. So treatment for anxiety disorders, we have a lot of very effective treatments. We will generally start treatment with psychotherapy. And psychotherapy can do cognitive behavioral treatments, meditations, and mindfulness-based treatments are also incredibly effective for generalized anxiety and panic disorder. Medications are available. In general, the psychiatric medications that we start with are the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which are antidepressants that are also very, very effective for anxiety, panic, and generalized anxiety. And for severe cases, we have what are called the benzodiazepines. So benzodiazepines are habit forming, they're addictive, they're related to alcohol, and while they're incredibly effective, we reserve those for people who have not responded well to psychotherapy and the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, the antidepressants that are very effective themselves.